the person with my power.
Well, I still have family there, so.
Yeah, there you go.
Still happy. Still
Because there
happy.
was someone that here
Park and all that good stuff.
that had my power.
Oh, well, yeah, they all do.
Okay.
They all do.
Max
Pretty
is always
much.
late.
Yeah.
Michael's multi-talented. He doesn't look it, that he is.
Yes, he is. He's something else.
They all went to Muskogee.
We love him.
Good evening.
Good evening.
It's good to see you all this evening. We're going to start off with a prayer or set an intention for the evening. If you care to join me or just focus your mind. Mother, Father, God, we're grateful for this opportunity to meet together, to share in encouragement, empowerment, and upbuilding each other. Mother, Father, God, help us to be mindful, to be loving each other, to be caring for each other and compassionate towards each other in this time of turmoil. And we thank you for these reminders. Help us to be open and receptive to the messages that are meant for us this evening. And so it is.
And so it is.
I want to start off, first of all, by saying something about the current events. And right before the healing portion, this is reverberating. During the healing portion of before the healing portion of our service this evening, we will be offering a prayer for those who lost their lives in Pittsburgh. So just keep that in mind. The G-force is what we're going to talk about tonight.
Uh-oh.
Okay. So the lesson for tonight is powerful and simple. Let me start by sharing what the G-force is, or better yet, what the G-force is not. It is not gravity or the pressure you feel when you go down on a roller coaster really, really fast. That is not what we're talking about tonight. The G-force is comprised of 3 separate ideas that work together to inspire and manifest great peace, satisfaction, and joy in your life. It is a power each and every one of us have inside ourselves. Gratitude, graciousness, and generosity, or the G-force. I think I told you a couple weeks ago, when I wrote this particular lesson, I had just become a minister, and I was very, very excited about sharing these ideas with people. And it didn't even come into my mind that people would think something different that the G-force was than what was in my mind. And I learned this valuable lesson. Sometimes what we have in our head is not as easily relatable as we might think. So before I start, I'm going to ask each segment of discourse this question: do you get it? Your response should be, yep, I get it.
Of course.
If you don't get it, then come and see me afterwards and we'll talk. As an instructor for the last 12 years, I feel I need an interaction and some positive feedback. Really, it's been longer than 12 years now. So, number 1, force number 1, gratitude. Gratitude is defined as thankfulness, gratefulness, or appreciation. It is a positive emotion or attitude in acknowledgement of a benefit that one has received or will receive. I want to clarify the difference here between appreciation, the state of bliss, and gratitude, the practice action of thankfulness. We can appreciate that we all have experienced thankfulness on some level. But here we're talking about the action of expressing that thankfulness through gratitude. The emotional, mental, and physical action taken by you when something is acknowledged as beneficial and when something is evoking a response so that you are grateful for it. If it can be beneficial to you, someone you care for, or a large group of people for the outcome of a situation. In fact, I had the privilege to participate in one of the classes at the College of Metaphysical Studies, and one of the exercises was to list the assets. I made my first draft of this list, and I named it things to be grateful for, things I should be grateful for. And it was long, but not terribly long. Because the first things that come to mind when somebody says to you, what are you grateful for? Oh, I'm grateful for my home, I'm grateful for my mate, I'm grateful for my friendships, I'm grateful for food, I'm grateful for my spiritual relationship with the divine. I'm grateful for the ability to practice my abilities that I have in connection with spirit. What are you grateful for, Peter?
Health.
His health. You know, so there are some things that automatically come to mind, the mundane things, but there are layers and layers of things to be grateful for. In fact, I think you may have heard me say, and if you haven't heard me say, it bears repeating, if in fact you can't sleep at night, don't count sheep. That's a waste of time. You should do one of two things. Pray for people that you said you'd pray for, because the list is endless, and make a list of things you're grateful for, because that list is endless, and you will fall asleep because your mind will be busy for a long time. I think if I hadn't stopped myself at some point on the list, I would still be making it. So it really helped me to understand, although it was simple, it was much more thoughtful and much more complicated than I initially thought that it would be, what you're grateful for. Thereby acting out my thankfulness, expressing my gratefulness for the lesson that I learned, I realized that I had so much to be grateful for, that my gratitude should be endless, like my list was endless. And then adding to always getting longer and longer and longer and longer, because every day there are new things to be grateful for, and we forget that as well. You know, we're grateful for something that happened before, and we're continually grateful for that, and we focus on that, and we forget the things that are happening now that we're being grateful for. One of the things that I've learned as far as gratitude is concerned, that's not in this talk, that has occurred in realization over the time of this ministry, because this was written way back, is that that gratitude is a very complicated thing. And sometimes the things that we're grateful for, or that we should be grateful for, are not the things that seem to be something that we should be grateful for. Does that make sense to you at all?
Absolutely.
Okay, so so somebody gets sick. How many of us have got sick? Right? We all get sick. And that's not something that we're happy about. It's not something that feels good. But how many of us have gotten sick and then found out that something more serious was wrong, and that minor illness pointed in the direction of that more serious thing? Yeah, I've had that happen too. So are you grateful? Are you grateful for the original warning signs that something was wrong, that made you look deeper into that situation, so then you could correct whatever it was that was wrong, right? So sometimes things happen to us and they seem as though there's something that we shouldn't be grateful for, or that are hard on us or difficult on us, or we have to change, or we have to work through a challenge or a difficulty. But really, we should be grateful for that. We should really be grateful for that. I had a conversation with a young woman last week, and she was telling me about the way that she was raised. And she was raised in an ideology that was the ideology that I came from. And so for me, you know how I feel about that. I'm very open about it. I'm very grateful for that. I'm so grateful for that. And she was not grateful for that. She was very angry. She was bitter, and she felt violated. She felt forced. She felt as if something had been taken away from her, which I know that you understand as well. And I didn't understand that because I was not raised in that ideology. I came to that ideology as an adult and made a commitment as an adult, grown person in my own mind. And so it really, what an incredible interaction I had with this person. So it helped me to be grateful on many levels, and I think I also shared with her my gratitude. So I could share with her why it is that I'm grateful for that tradition. Why are you grateful? Well, look at all the things that I've learned. Look at all the situations that I've overcome. Look at the opportunities that it afforded me. I had so many great experiences. It was absolutely amazing, amazing 20-year experience. And I never really thought of it that way before. But she gave me something as well, because you see, I raised my children in that tradition, and I never really looked at it from that perspective. And she gave me the opportunity to see why she was angry and why she felt the way that she felt, why she held a grudge, why she was feeling that this was a negative experience as opposed to a positive experience. And so when I walked away from that, I was doubly grateful. I was grateful that I had the opportunity to share and maybe help elevate her energy level there and her vibration. And then she was able to share with me so that I had some insight into something that I otherwise would not have had because of the emotional connection that you have with your children in a relation and in a communication. I didn't have that with this woman. This was a stranger, so she could say whatever she wanted to me, right? I'm not going to take it personally, of course. But when you're in an interaction with your children, it's a very different thing. So always looking for the opportunity to express gratitude for whatever is going on in my life. Do you get it?
Yes.
Okay. Force number 2, graciousness. Graciousness is defined as having or showing kindness, courtesy, charm, being merciful, compassionate, indulgent, or polite. I'd like to think that I'm gracious. Do we deal with others in a gracious way? Do we extend to others compassion and mercy? Are we understanding of other people's and other people's limitations? So for example, if somebody says no, do you get mad? Who do they think they are? They said no to me. Well, everybody has the right to say no. And being gracious, you would say, oh, okay, I understand. It's okay for somebody to make decisions and express things that you don't agree with, that you don't buy into, and maybe you don't even like. How do you like that? Somebody says something, I don't like that at all. Well, who cares? Everything is not for you to like, right? So that's very important. Are we kind? Are we courteous? Or are we mean? We are living now in the year of mean. Mean things, people say mean things, and they feel entitled to say mean things. You are not entitled to say mean things. Not if you are an enlightened person. Not if you are an awakened person. Because you hold yourself, I don't hold you to anything. You hold yourself to a higher standard because that's how you identify yourself, right? I'm awake. I'm a metaphysical person. I'm into metaphysical spirituality. That's my thing. Well, then if that's your thing, then you're not going to call people names and you're not going to be mean. Our gratitude for graciousness of spirit on our lives in the outwork of manifestation we daily experience, our very existence should move us to be gracious and display graciousness to all those that we come in contact with. Because look at the kindness that's extended to you every day. Every day, you're given the opportunity to wake up and do whatever you want. To create whatever you want. To think whatever you want and be whoever you want to be. You have that opportunity every single day. Being awakened spiritual beings, children of light, we are actually aware that we share with all people the indwelling spirit that binds us all together. We are connected. We are aware of our need to be connected. And we should be gracious because being gracious to someone else is really being gracious to myself. When someone cuts you off in traffic, oh, I know you love this lesson. We're not extending a digit or honking our horn, rolling down the window, cussing people out, leaning it out, right?
I do.
No. Shame,
Honest,
shame.
I can't, that's your-
I'm gonna ring the bell. Shame, shame.
No, get the figures out.
Do you consider that you might have done in the past yourself in traffic? Have you ever been going someplace and your GPS says make a left here and it's a right and you're cutting across all the traffic to make the right? No one came behind you and rolled down their window and started cussing you out.
Recalculating.
Yeah. I mean, so put yourself in the situation of others. think a little bit before you react to things. In fact, we should not be reacting to anything, right? We should be not reacting to anything. So we should be thinking.
Whenever I slip up like that, people wish me love.
There you go.
What they give me, that's wishing me love.
Oh. Well, if you think about it, this is what it means.
First thought in my mind, I hope when someone drives like that, I hope they're not on the way to the hospital.
The
Maybe
hospital,
there's a
or have to
reason
use the
they're speeding and
restroom,
driving like they are.
Right.
or their babysitter has to leave in the next 10 minutes and they have to get home before the babysitter has to come home. I mean, there's 1,000 scenarios that we could play over in our head before we allow ourselves to get so aggravated over a situation that we're not displaying graciousness, right? So, we don't get angry. A very wise man once said, if you want to make others happy, be compassionate. If you want to be happy, be compassionate. That's the Dalai Lama, just so you know. Something to think about. Do you get it?
You got it.
Good. Force number 3, generosity. This is one of my favorites. Generosity is the habit of giving freely without expecting anything in return. If it can involve offering time, assets, talents to aid someone in need, just being there for someone, praying for someone, sending energy to someone. So there's many, many ways that we can be generous. Even thinking good thoughts about somebody or ourselves. Be generous to ourselves, right? Often it is equated with charity as a virtue, spending time, money, or labor for others without being rewarded in turn. That's what it means to be generous. I remember a sermon I heard once when I was a Jehovah's Witness that was one that stuck in my mind and sticks in my mind to this day. And it was, the minister suggested that parents should teach their children above all at a young age to be generous. This was the number one way to develop a spiritual heart. And I agree. I agree 100%. Because it is the nature of children to say what? What's one of the first things little kids say?
Yeah.
Mine! 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 You know, even if it's their mommy, mine! You know, what is theirs, because their world is them. They can't see outside of themselves. They haven't grown to that awareness yet. But I think it's really important that we teach our children that by sharing, they gain as well. That they benefit from that sharing, that it builds up their heart, that it leads to other virtuous behaviors, because it's one of the qualities expressed by God or the Creator, divine source, to humans in abundance. How generous is God to you? How generous is Source to you?
Abundantly.
Oh my gosh!
Totally.
The more you know, the more you know.
The more you know, the more you know. And the more you know, the more you have to learn. Because there's so much out there for us to experience for your exquisite delight. So I'm going to tell you a short story in case you haven't heard it before. But this awareness of how generous Spirit and Source is to me profoundly affected me once when I went skiing in Idaho, and I had never been skiing before. So I, of course, am so brave and full of myself. I go all the way to the top of the mountain, and I was by myself, and it had just snowed the night before, and I'd never really been up that high, I don't think, before, and it was just beyond beautiful. There are no words to describe how beautiful it was. As I stood there looking at the snow that was freshly fallen and untouched, virgin snow, sparkling in the sun, just like someone had thrown glitter all over it. And then looked down the mountain, and I was above the clouds, so there were clouds above me and clouds below me, and the sun went through the clouds, and I could see it go through the clouds down onto a lake below. It was just breathtaking. It was breathtaking. And then this feeling came up into my solar plexus, and it was, this is for you. And I recognized for the first time in my life that these things didn't just happen. Someone didn't just jumble a box and go, here you go, this is for you. Oh, cake. That's not the way it worked. Somebody spent time and energy and affected my heart and my mind and examined me and then made something that would touch me so deeply, so soulfully, that it would move me in a way to be grateful that I had never been grateful before. That is generosity. Here, I made this whole world, this whole universe, this whole existence, this multiverse for your delight. A playground for you to do with as you will. So my gratitude was beyond expression. The generosity that I felt was more than abundant. I could not compare that joy with anything that I had felt before. And especially with the holidays right around the corner, I think about all of the things that are so beautiful and so delightful that we take for granted. Food. You know, we eat every day. We eat every day. Sometimes we eat mindlessly, just shoving stuff in our mouth. But how many times have we sat at a good meal? You know, food doesn't have to taste good. It doesn't. How many of us have had a meal that wasn't so delicious?
Every day.
Oh, no.
So when you have a delicious meal, oh, you really, really appreciate it. Oh my gosh, this is so delicious. It is intended to be that way. It is intended for your delight, for your sustenance, and for your pleasure. How very loving and how very generous that there is such an incredible variety in flavor and textures. It makes the experience of life incredibly joyful. And it's that way with everything that we can think of. If you think about art, if you think about music, if you think about people, the people in your life. You have everybody from, off the wall, super extroverted people that you absolutely love to super introverted people that are very quiet and like you, Michael. And just on the other spectrum. So, really take note of these things is what I'm hoping the point that I'm trying to make is be aware of your ability to benefit from the G-force on a spiritual level. How these things help us to be more connected to each other, more connected to our universe, more connected to our planet and our environment, more connected to our experiences, our daily experiences, and appreciative of them, and more connected to our own experience on a regular basis. We're not just living in a void, we're living mindfully, right? We're aware of all these beautiful things that are happening to us. We are living the bliss.
That's right.
We are living the bliss. So do you get it?
Yeah.
Got it.
So how does this G-force work in your life and what is the benefit? The benefit is because it changes the way that you look at interactions, situations, relationships with people in your life. It benefits you because it changes the way that you feel about these interactions, situations, and relationships in your life. You cannot change others. But you can change and heighten and increase the way that you respond to others emotionally, mentally, physically. Everything is up to you. Everything is up to you. You see these three ideas? Gratitude, graciousness, and generosity. They are interconnected and feed each other in a profound way for your benefit. And so I leave that with you with its blessing. Namaste. And now, you can turn that off. Goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye.